Monster Melee, Illusionist, Flesh Golem, Brain in a Jar versus Flameskull. 12 skeletons.
Ladies and gentlemen, boggles and ghouls, welcome to a special horror edition of Monster Melee. We have two teams of spooky and freaky D&D monsters about ready to clash in a fantastic battle. And as always, I am your commentator and game master, Esper. So we have these two groups for today's matchup. First of all is Weird Arcana, which features an illusionist, a gnome illusionist at that, a brain in a jar, and a flesh golem. And opposing them, we have the Bone Brigade, which is composed of 12 skeletons, 12 regular skeletons, led by a flameskull. For the battle arena, I'm using Carceral of the Shunned. You might recognize it from a previous battle. I think it's fitting for this one. You can find this map and many others on my Patreon page. That is Esper the Bard on patreon.com. I do maps, newsletters, all kinds of content to enhance your 5th edition games and really just your RPG campaigns in general. So check me out on Patreon, show some support. The link is down in the video description. So let's take a closer look at everyone who's in today's matchup. First, with Weird Arcana, we have what I believe is the leader, this rock gnome illusionist. I'm actually curious to see if anyone recognizes the art that I've used for this token. He's largely based on the illusionist NPC out of Volo's Guide to Monsters. Humanoid will give them gnome and wizard tags and a neutral alignment. Challenge rating of 3, armor class of 15, hit points of 45, and a speed of 25 feet. His main strength is his spell casting. It goes all the way up to 4th level spell slots. He's got some great spells, a bunch of illusion spells. I have swapped out a few of the spells, Phantasmal Killer for Lightning Bolt, and Poison Spray for Shocking Grasp. He does have some other great spells prepared, Magic Missile, a bunch of illusion spells like Invisibility, Mirror Image, Phantom Steed, Major Image. He also has a displacement feature, which is similar to the Displacer Beast, where there's like this second image that enemies have disadvantage when attacking him, and he retains the disadvantage until he takes damage or gets incapacitated. And anytime he casts an illusion spell of 1st level or higher, that displacement effect can be reactivated as a bonus action. He also has the Gnome Cunning trait, which gives him advantage on saving throws based on intelligence, wisdom, or charisma against magic. For weaknesses, his AC is kind of mediocre, not terrible, just a little bit in the mid-range, slightly under par speed with a 25, and otherwise is very weak in melee. Next is this Flesh Golem. He might have crafted it, or maybe the Brain in the Jar ally helped him craft it. It's a medium construct, neutral alignment, challenge rating of 5, AC of only 9, hit points of 93, and a standard speed of 30 feet. For strength, he has a bunch of damage immunities. Regular weapons can't hurt him, so the skeletons, short swords, and arrows aren't going to be able to damage him. Also immune to lightning and poison and a bunch of other conditions, like he can't be frightened or charmed or exhausted. Also has a fantastic lightning absorption feature, which means if it gets exposed to lightning damage, it actually heals that much. Has magic resistance, has magic weapons, and overall is just very strong in melee. For weaknesses, has a very low AC, 9 is very, very low. Has this berserk trait where if it gets too damaged, it might actually go berserk and just kind of attack any creature nearby. Has aversion to fire, so if it takes fire damage, then it's going to have disadvantage on attack rolls for a round. And its dex, intelligence, and charisma scores are low. Then along with him is the Brain in a Jar, a really cool undead creature that's actually been in D&D since 3rd edition. I'm using the 3rd edition art here. Small undead, neutral evil alignment, challenge rating of 3, armor class of 11, 55 hit points, speed of 0. It doesn't walk at all. It's just this like ornate, strong metal canister with a brain floating in it. It does have a flying speed of 10 feet with hover, so a very slow creature, but I think the golem's going to be carrying it here at the beginning. We'll see how long that lasts for. It might want to hover up into the air at a certain point. In terms of strengths, Brain in a Jar has some different condition immunities. Can't be paralyzed, knocked prone, or poisoned. Has blind sight out to 120 feet. Detect sentience within 30 feet. Has a bunch of cool spell casting, some really good spells. It has Chill Touch as though an 11th level spellcaster, 3rd level Sleep, Compulsion, Hold Monster, Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Also has magic resistance and has a Mind Blast feature, kind of like a Mind Flayer. It's a really big 60-foot cone. Everyone in that cone has to make an intelligence saving throw. On a failure, they take psychic damage and get stunned. That is a 1-minute stun effect with ongoing saves. If someone succeeds on the intelligence saving throw at the get-go there, no stun, no psychic damage, just no effect at all. Then for the leader of the Bone Brigade, this skeletal troop over here, we have the Flameskull, a tiny undead, neutral evil, challenge rating 4, armor class of 13, hit points of 40, no speed on the ground, has a 40-foot flying speed though. For strengths, it has some quite good damage resistances and immunities. It resists lightning and necrotic and piercing, and it's immune to cold and fire and poisoned. Also can't be paralyzed, charmed, frightened. It also has magic resistance, so we've got a number of magic resistance creatures in this battle. Has some pretty good spell casting, has like a once per day fireball, magic missile, shield, blur, flaming sphere. Also has these fire rays, which it can do 2 of per round, and a really cool rejuvenation trait. If it gets destroyed, it's going to reform in 1 hour unless its remains are sprinkled with holy water or targeted with dispel magic or remove curse. In terms of weaknesses, it does have kind of an under par AC. It's extremely low in strength and has no melee offense at all. It has nothing for melee. Then for the skeletons, just the basic skeleton warriors. They are medium undead, lawful evil, challenge rating 1/4, armor class of 13, hit points is also 13, standard speed of 30 feet on the ground. The only real strength I would say is that they're just this horde of undead pawns, right? They just follow orders, there's a bunch of them. Otherwise, they don't really have any strengths. As far as weaknesses go, I'd say their AC is kind of mediocre. They're vulnerable to bludgeoning damage, their hit points are low. Low intelligence, wisdom, charisma. They're basic skeletons, so you get it. And I'm grouping the skeletons into 2 groups of 6. We'll say this group of what we'll call skeletons A. They'll start off with their short swords equipped, and then what we'll call skeletons B, they'll start off with these short bows equipped. So this will be the archer skeletons up here. All right, I'm eager to see how the spooktacular battle plays out. Let's get the initiative rolled and see how things play out. Looks like the Flameskull is going to go first, then Illusionist, then Skeleton Group A, Flesh Golem, Skeleton Group B, and Brain in a Jar at the end. The Flameskull flies a bit up to there.
Start off with a bit of fire, eh?
And it will unleash a fireball upon the enemy group over here. 8d6, gotta love the fireball. That is 31 damage, pretty good roll. All right, dexterity saving throws for half damage. We're going to go with advantage for the Brain in the Jar, though it does have a -4. All right, comes up with a 15. That's good enough. It succeeds. Flameskull's spell DC is 13. All right, and then the Flesh Golem's dex save, advantage for the magic resistance. It comes up with a 14, has a -1. That'll be good enough. And the Illusionist has a +2. Displacement's not going to do anything here. Rolls a nat 20, so they have all saved, and they each take 15 fire damage.
Damn, they didn't die.
And the Flameskull is going to head back that way. We'll go on to the Illusionist. The Illusionist will cast a mirror image on himself, so 3 misty duplicates begin swirling and shifting all about him. That also allows him to activate the displacement as a bonus action, which he will do. And then he is going to take some cover back here. Yeah, he'll go thereabouts. I think he would like to line up some of these skeletons with a lightning bolt, but maybe he'll get to that on a later turn. And we'll go on to Skeleton Group A. They clatter forward, and then I think they're actually going to go down here trying to get after the gnome. All right, so that will be a dash, trying to kill the enemy mage, always a good tactic. All right, on to the Flesh Golem. It goes shambling this way to try to protect its master. Can actually go a little bit further like that and begins swinging its clubbing fists. Its limbs and arms go flailing about. Here are 2 attacks as a multi-attack for 2 hits. Those are both going to be hits, and I'm sure he's going to be taking out a couple of skeletons, considering they are vulnerable to bludgeoning damage. So it's going to be 26 and 20. He completely just smashes through 2 of these skeletons here. And they are dead now. Skeleton Group B, which is the archers, are going to advance a little bit. I'm actually going to rearrange them slightly. And at the behest of their flaming, floating headmaster, they take aim at the brain in the jar. 6 arrows come flying in. I will give the brain in the jar some decent amount of cover, considering that the flesh golem is holding. I'll give it half cover, +2 to AC. All right, 6 skeleton attacks. They all have +4 going against an AC with the half cover of 13. 2 of the arrows hit, and that deals a total of 7 damage to the brain in a jar. The arrows click and clack off of the thick glass surface of the canister, and the undead brain floating in alchemical fluid inside kind of jitters. It doesn't really like that. And it has a response of its own, sending out a mind blast onto that entire group of skeletons. Oof, all of them except one failed that save, so they're going to be taking 3d8 +4 psychic damage. If they somehow are not destroyed by this, they are stunned for a minute. That's 14 damage. That is enough to wipe out 5 skeletons in a single mind blast. Skeletons contort and twist and clatter to the ground, all but one of the archers. That is a recharge roll of a 5 or a 6 for the brain in the jar to get its mind blast back. Does it want to move at all? I think it's just going to stay there. I guess it's not technically being held by the flesh golem, just sort of hovering in front of its chest, because the flesh golem actually went into doing multi-attack with its 2 arms. I just realized that the flesh golem actually should have had disadvantage on those slam attacks due to its aversion to fire. Even though it made its saving throw against the fireball, it still did take some fire damage, which that is enough. So I did those 2 rolls, and both of them were good enough to hit. So let's say that was the first slam attack with disadvantage, and then I'll do another 2 rolls here and see if it managed to actually hit. Ooh, there's a natural 1 in there. Okay, so I'm going to bring this skeleton back here. It did not get bashed away to smithereens. On to round 2, starting with the flameskull.
Ah, shite!
He sees his various skeletal minions lying on the ground in collapsed heaps of bones, and he needs to poke out just a little bit more, and he'll be able to go back just slightly. What does he have to use? I think he's going to go against either the brain in the jar or the flesh golem. And he conjures a flaming sphere right here next to the flesh golem. I guess it's actually next to this skeleton, but so be it. So that was his standard action, and then he'll use a bonus action to try to ram the sphere into the golem, which will make a dexterity saving throw. Advantage due to magic resistance. Nope, rolled low and has -1 dexterity. That will be a total of 9 fire damage to the flesh golem, and again, that will trigger its aversion to fire. The flameskull can fly back just ever so slightly, and then we go to the illusionist. So the illusionist moves to there. And he's quite happy because he has a really nice lightning bolt lined up here. So it's going to be those 4 skeletons there, plus the flesh golem, but not the brain in the jar, and then this skeleton up there. So a lightning bolt like such.
Forgot him.
Fantastic blast of lightning. We are looking at a total of 20 lightning damage. Not the best roll ever, actually. That was kind of a low roll. We're looking at DC 13 dexterity saving throws. So we'll do the skeletons and then the flesh golem. Well, the flesh golem actually is not going to try to get out of the way. It's just going to take it because it's going to heal the 20 damage. I'll do that right now. There's 20 hit points restored to the flesh golem due to the lightning absorption. Nice how that works. And now the skeleton's dex saves. These 2 skeletons take 20 damage, and that just completely knocks them out. And these 3 skeletons take 10 damage each. That's half damage on their successful saving throws, reducing them each to just 3 hit points left. So they're just like that, down to being in the red. Just a small little sliver of hit points remaining. And the illusionist will finish his movement there. Then we go to the group A skeletons that are pursuing the gnome. So those 2 will get to there. This one is going to provoke an opportunity attack from the flesh golem. It will attack with disadvantage. We're looking at a 13 to hit. I believe it has +7. Sure does. That will hit, and even the minimum damage is enough to destroy that skeleton. So it paid the ultimate price trying to move. This one could move, but I think the flameskull is actually watching it right there, and it's going to tell the skeleton to stay and attack the brain in the jar. I will go ahead and do its attack roll first against the brain in the jar just to see what happens there. I'll give it the +2 for the half cover. Still, the golem's body is largely blocking it. 19 is good enough though, and the brain in the jar is going to take only 3 damage. That was a minimum roll on the short sword of the skeleton. All right, so these skeletons are attacking. The illusionist has mirror image and the displacement effect. So, okay, do it just a d20 roll to see here. All right, 9 means that the attack is going at a duplicate. And here's the attack roll. It's against an AC of 12. Oh, it's a critical hit. Okay, so 1 misty duplicate has been destroyed. And then this skeleton is going to be attacking, that will also be attacking a duplicate. And here's the skeleton's attack roll. And that's enough. All right, so actually 2 of the duplicates have been destroyed. The illusionist now only has a single duplicate left, though it also still has displacement. Onto the flesh golem. He does not like that fire. He's going to want to be moving, but first, let's go for an attack. Disadvantage against the skeleton here. Oh, and nat 2, that's not going to be good enough, but he has 2 attacks with his multi-attack. That is going to be good, and again, the minimum damage is enough to eradicate the skeleton. And the flesh golem will go towards its master. No. Quite upset that these skeletons are harrying the master. Actually, I want the brain in the jar to stay there. It's just kind of floating and hovering at, whatever, like 6 feet off the ground or something. There are none left in skeleton group B, so we go to the brain in a jar. We'll start off by checking the recharge roll on the mind blast. Does not get the recharge. Brain in the jar is quite slow. It might be worth it to do a dash and get around here. Also could be good to do an intelligence religion check to see what it knows about flameskulls, because there's kind of an unknown foe with, it might want to see what kind of resistances and immunities and such it has. Chill touch against the skeleton's also a good option. It's going to take the dash, just reposition to try to get as much cover as possible from that flameskull, as it has some pretty nice ranged offense. All right, we go to round 3 with the flameskull at the top. It's observing a lot of its allies have been defeated.
Good thing these skeletons are cheap to make.
It's going to fly over like such to get a good view of things. It sends the flaming sphere over, just rolling and crackling along as a bonus action to ram it against the flesh golem. It makes an attack or a dexterity saving throw. That was actually supposed to be advantage, so we'll use this 15. -1 dex makes it a 14. That's good, though it will take half damage, so that's going to be like 2 to the flesh golem. And then for the action of the flameskull, I think it's going to actually upcast a magic missile to 2nd level and target the illusionist.
Suck on this.
There is 14 damage, striking unerringly, and the flameskull will conclude movement there. And we go to the illusionist's turn. Well, he did not like getting hurt like that. What could he do here? I think actually he's going to cast a 2nd level magic missile as well. That seems a good tactic. He'll send 2 at skeleton 6 and 2 at skeleton 4. All right, that's going to deal 6 damage to skeleton 6, which wipes it out, and it's going to deal 6 as well to skeleton 4, and that takes out, almost half of its hit points right there. He wants to move. This is not a good spot to be in, so that will provoke an opportunity attack from this skeleton here. Let's see if it's against him, or on an 11 or higher, it's against a duplicate. It's against a duplicate. All right, skeleton attacks against a DC of 12. That is good enough. So the misty duplicates are all gone. The displacement still remains. And he will run around this corner like such, trying to get a good amount of cover. So there's really just the one skeleton from group A. It's going to pursue the illusionist, I believe. The flameskull is prioritizing the illusionist and the brain in the jar, because it can completely destroy this flesh golem once it gets the 2 spellcaster allies out of the way. So the flesh golem will take an attack of opportunity. It has disadvantage because the flaming sphere dealt some fire damage to it. A nat 4 is going to really hamper that. The fire is really getting to it. The skeleton goes over to there and is attacking with disadvantage due to the displacement. There's a +4, that's going to come up to a 13. Illusionist has an AC of 15 with that mage armor, so the mage armor repels the blade, turns it aside, and the displacement remains. The flesh golem comes over like such, attacks with disadvantage. That is going to be a hit, and I imagine it's going to destroy this skeleton here. Oh yeah, 16 damage will obliterate the skeleton. The flesh golem has one more attack, but there's nothing to attack, so he'll just kind of look at his master, the gnome there.
Stay there.
Getting a bit of a body shield, which is a nice thing. Onto the brain in a jar, gonna check the recharge roll. 4 is not good enough. So the brain in the jar is basically left with experiment with a spell on the flameskull or use its action to make a religion check. It's a pretty smart creature, very smart in fact. Let's go with a intelligence religion check. Comes up with a 12. Well, that doesn't tell it much. I think it just knows that the flameskull is an undead, and so, there's kind of maybe some generalized undead immunities it could think of, but it's not really sure if, it could be paralyzed or frightened or things like that, or what kind of damage resistances it has. It will hover over, kind of float that way, and we go to the top of round 4. The flameskull comes over to there, sends the flaming sphere in as a bonus action to ram against the flesh golem. It makes a saving throw, dexterity saving throw. 15, -1, 14, that'll do it. So he takes just half damage, like we saw before, but this still is enough to trigger the fire aversion. So there's 4, that's half. And the flesh golem still has a bunch of hit points. Now the question is, can the flameskull see the gnome? I say not quite, but he still has movement. Yeah, I think he will dare to come out like that, and that might give him a line of sight. Not quite. It's so close, but not quite. So I think he's going to send flame rays at the brain in a jar. Here go 2 fire ray attacks.
Let's see if we can get that water boiling.
Nat 17 will do it, and Nat 3 is not a hit. 3d6 fire damage. The brain in a jar takes only 6, not a very good damage roll on that fire ray. We come to the illusionist's turn. Magic missiles really causing problems for him. He could use invisibility. That's a pretty good choice. He could do a dash. That's a pretty long corridor for him to dash through. I think invisibility is the way to go. All right, there we go, invisibility. He's not using stealth, so he can be heard as he's moving away and casting spells and such. The flameskull could hear where he's at, but can't see him. And I'm pretty sure you need to see the target to cast magic missile on them. All right, and he is concentrating on the invisibility. Flesh golem, well, what can flesh golem do? Wants to get away from the flaming sphere, because if you end your turn within 5 feet of it, it could burn you. The flaming skull is up too high for the golem to reach with its slam attacks. It's floating up too high. Gosh, I think it's just going to be following the sound and the voice of the illusionist to provide body cover. It's there, and flesh golem will dodge. All right, brain in a jar, really hoping for that recharge to hit. Doesn't do it. So I'm going to say the brain in the jar casts a hold monster on the flameskull, hoping to paralyze it, but the flameskull actually is immune to paralysis.
Can't hold me down.
Sorry, brain. It floats to there, slowly hovering. Top of round 5. Flameskull is probably going to try to roast off the brain here.
I'm seeing some bubbles. Getting hot.
Fire ray 1 and 2. Again, we just get 1 hit. And this time rolls much better on the damage. That is 13 fire damage to the brain in the jar. It is not looking good. It is down to 11 out of 55, really into the red. The flameskull is going to do some flying. It can get to there. Yeah, I can just kind of barely see a bit of the flesh golem, though that is enough. And we'll send the flaming sphere over to it. There we go, and the flesh golem is going to make a dex save with advantage, though -1 for the dex modifier. 16 is good enough, it will take half damage. Right, half of 7 is a mere 3. It still has a bunch of hit points. Okay, so the illusionist and the flesh golem both have dash. They've gone to this corridor here and then taken the bend to the right, just trying to stay away, trying to get some distance between themselves and the flameskull, trying to get some cover, and then maybe the illusionist can launch a nice spell attack. Let's see what they can pull off. We go to the brain's turn, and it's really hoping to get that recharge roll success. Let's see what it can come up with here. Unfortunately, just does not get it. Gosh, what can it do? It can do a 3rd level sleep. That's 98 worth of sleep, but it knows the flameskull's undead, so sleep is not going to work on an undead. So it does have a Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Let's go ahead and give that a try. It has to float in just to barely get within range, and the flameskull will make a wisdom saving throw with advantage. And nat 14 is certainly going to be good enough. And even though it is quite a chattery and laughing creature, it is not overwhelmed by compulsive laughter from the spell. And we go to the flameskull's turn. Well, that was probably the brain's last hope. Flameskull's probably going to just completely take it out here. Right, it's going to cast Fire Rays. Here's the first one. 14, that is good enough. And the brain in the jar takes 8 damage and is not defeated, but has just a tiny fraction of its hit points. The second flame ray comes with a nat 16. Oh, that will do it. The brain in the jar is boiled in too much heat. It can't take it any longer, and it falls and shatters upon the floor.
That sort of thing really cracks me up.
All right, the flameskull hovers over to there. The illusionist's turn. What is he going to do? He's hatching a plan. The flameskull has come into the corridor here. So I wonder if the flesh golem could potentially jump up and grab it. Another option is for the illusionist to cast a 4th level lightning bolt. Could also do a 4th level magic missile. All right, illusionist, you've done quite a bit of running, so I think I'm going to say he needs to just actually run away and essentially concede the fight, lose, or get in there and try to see this thing through. So here's what he will do. He will come there just to where he can peer out, and we'll go ahead and upcast a 4th level magic missile. 6 darts of magical force fly through the air and burst upon the flameskull for 23 damage. That's respectable. That's knocking out a little over half of the flameskull's hit points just like that. All right, well done, illusionist. That will make the invisibility end, of course. And he moves back to there and is telling the flesh golem if the flameskull comes close, jump up and grab it. So the flesh golem is here and it's like readying this leap to try to get up there. I think it'd just be like an athletics check versus the dexterity acrobatics of the flameskull. On to round 7, the flameskull, as a bonus action, sends the flaming sphere ahead. It can go 30 feet to there.
Risky business. I like it.
I think he's feeling cocky. It has a rejuvenation feature, so it thinks worst case it gets smashed, it's going to come back. He doesn't think these enemies are going to be able to permanently destroy it. It comes there to where it can just peer around the corner. So here's what I'll do. I'm going to give it a +2, like a half cover to its dex acrobatics check, as the flesh golem leaps up, trying to grab the thing, maybe by its jaw. So it's going to do a strength athletics check. Has like a +4, only an 8, and then the flameskull is going to have like a 3 dex +2 half cover +5. 15, that'll do it. So the flameskull evades the grasp. And I think it's going to fire magic missiles onto the illusionist. Right, this has to be a baseline magic missile, just a 1st level version. But it rolled decently well. There's 12 damage. The illusionist is down to a mere 4 hit points. His rock gnome constitution is helping him out a little bit compared to the average vanilla illusionist. And the flameskull will hover just back a tiny bit. The illusionist is going for it. He steps like that and is going to upcast to a 3rd level magic missile. 5 darts of magic force streak out. 17 damage. That is the exact current hit point total of the flameskull.
God damn.
and it just shatters, and the chunks and shards of it fall to the ground with little green flames burning out into wisps of nothingness. The flesh golem is rather agitated, and the gnome illusionist is rather wounded, but he was not defeated. Well done to the wizard and his crew. Alas, the brain in the jar got boiled and shattered. But wow, that was a pretty cool fight. I hope you all enjoyed that one. I certainly did. I want to give an extra special thank you to all my supporters over on Patreon. In particular, let me use my spooky Crypt Keeper type voice here.
Adam Wood, Nick Thy Pirate King, Jared Primont, Locke, Nicholas A., Technicolor Shale, Robert Brashini, Ben R., Till Wrench, and Tornado, and the mythic patron Lucas Mesmo.
Thank you one and all, and I look forward to seeing you in another video sometime soon. I have some more spooky ones now that we're in the Halloween season in the month of October, so look out for some more eerie and creepy videos coming from me. And until next time, everyone, may your adventures be many.